AITA for refusing to sign our lease after my girlfriend publicly mocked me during a live stream. I'm Logan, 35, and I'd been with Ava for almost 3 years. She was my girlfriend, and until that week, I honestly believed we were entering the most serious stage of our relationship. We had a shared calendar filled with reminders like lease signing, deposit due, and key handoff. There were moving boxes stacked against my living room wall, 3 rolls of packing tape on the coffee table, and a folder on my laptop containing utility estimates and renter's insurance quotes. We had already walked through the apartment twice. Ava had picked the side of the closet she wanted. I had measured the corner where our dining table was supposed to go. I'm also the kind of person who reads cancellation policies before paying for anything. I save receipts. I take screenshots when a payment page acts strange. I don't enjoy conflict, and I usually take a night to think before saying something I can't take back. For most of our relationship, I thought that made me steady. Near the end, Ava started treating it like proof that I could be pushed. When we first got together, her confidence was one of the things I liked most about her. She could walk into a room where she knew one person and leave with 5 new contacts in her phone. She was quick, funny, and good at making people feel like they were part of the joke. The problem was that, over time, I became the joke. It started small enough that I felt ridiculous bringing it up. At a coffee shop with 2 of her friends, she once said, "Logan is the human version of ordering the same breakfast every Sunday." Everyone laughed. I smiled and asked, "Is that supposed to be good?" "It means you're reliable," she said, touching my arm. "Relax." Another time, while we were watching a movie with Riley, Ava said I was husband material in the most aggressively responsible way possible. Riley laughed so hard she snorted. I didn't. Ava noticed my face and added, "That's a compliment. Women have fun with one kind of guy and build a life with another." I remember looking at her and saying, "You realize that doesn't sound flattering to the guy you're building a life with, right?" She rolled her eyes. You always find the insult inside the compliment. The comments involving her ex were harder to ignore. Caleb had dated Ava for a little over a year before we met. From the way she originally described it, their relationship had been exciting but unstable. They fought, broke up, got back together, and eventually ended things after she said she got tired of never knowing where she stood. For the first year Ava and I were together, Caleb's name barely came up. Then he started appearing around the edges. He commented on one of her photos, "Still causing trouble, I see." She replied with a laughing emoji. A few weeks later, he sent her a clip from a concert they had attended together. She showed it to me while we were eating dinner and said, "He always remembers the weirdest things." I asked why they were messaging. "We're not messaging," she said. "He sent one clip." "That's still a message. You're being literal." I let it go. Then there were more comments. More old stories. More comparisons that Ava insisted were not comparisons. If I wanted to leave a gathering at a reasonable hour, Caleb apparently used to keep her out until sunrise. If I planned a trip carefully, Caleb apparently used to decide where they were going after they got in the car. If I made dinner at home, Caleb apparently knew every late-night spot worth trying. The first time I said, "I don't want to hear a running review of how I compare to your ex," Ava acted offended. "I'm not comparing you. You just said he was spontaneous and I'm cautious." That's describing 2 people in the same sentence. She crossed her arms. "You know what? This is why I don't tell you things. You turn everything into a threat." That sentence worked on me for longer than I'm proud to admit. I didn't want to be the jealous boyfriend. I didn't want to police who she spoke to. I didn't want to become the insecure man she could point to whenever she needed to defend a bad joke. So I tried to separate what actually mattered from what simply irritated me. When we began planning to live together, I told myself this was evidence of our commitment. We talked through monthly expenses, parking, groceries, and how much each of us could contribute up front. Ava had less available for the move than I did, so I agreed to cover most of the deposit. She would take on a larger share of some later expenses until things evened out. It wasn't a loan. I wasn't keeping score. I believed we were building something together. The night before the lease signing, I was sitting on my couch surrounded by half-packed boxes. I had ordered takeout and was eating straight from the container while checking my phone. A clip popped up in my feed because 2 people I knew had shared it. The preview showed Ava sitting beside Riley on a couch. There were drinks on the coffee table, 2 other women partly visible at the edge of the frame, and comments moving so quickly along the side of the screen that I could barely read them. The caption said relationship audit. I almost kept scrolling. Then I heard my name. Riley leaned toward the camera and said, "Okay, be honest. Safe guy or chemistry guy?" Ava laughed before answering. "Those are not always the same person." One of the women off camera said, "Oh, she's about to get in trouble." The comments filled with laughing faces. Riley grinned. "Fine. Rate the current relationship." Ava took a drink and pretended to think. "Logan is good on paper." "That is not a number," Riley said. "Okay, a safe 6. The room erupted. I stopped chewing. Someone off camera said, "6? You're moving in with a 6. Ava laughed harder. "Safe 6. There's a difference." Riley looked straight at her. "And Caleb?" Ava made a face like she knew she shouldn't answer, but wanted to. That was chemistry. "If both were single?" Riley asked. "Who are you picking?" Ava looked at the comments. She let the silence stretch while people typed guesses. Then she said, "Logan is stable. Caleb was chemistry." The worst part wasn't that she laughed. It was that she waited for the comments to catch up before she laughed harder. I watched the clip twice. Not because I enjoyed it, but because I wanted to make sure I hadn't missed some setup that made it less cruel. Maybe it was edited. Maybe there had been a question before the clip started. Maybe she had corrected herself afterward. She didn't. In the longer version, she called me predictable, said I was the kind of man women appreciated after they got tired of chaos, and joked that I probably had the deposit amount memorized down to the last cent. I did actually. That earned another round of laughter. The comments were worse. "He sounds like a roommate. She already misses the ex. 6 with benefits. Girl, just admit you settled." Ava read several of them aloud. At no point did she say, "That's enough." I paused the video on her face and took screenshots. Then I saved the clip. My first impulse was to call her. My second was to post a comment asking whether she wanted Caleb to cover the deposit. I did neither. Instead, I opened our text thread and wrote, "Did you mean what you said on that livestream?" The typing bubble appeared almost immediately. Ava, "Oh my God. It was a game." Me, "Did you mean it?" Ava, "It was content." Everyone was joking. Me, "You compared me to Caleb in front of strangers." Ava, "If you make this a problem, maybe you're proving my point." I stared at that message for a while. Then another one came through. Ava, "Please don't ruin the signing tomorrow over a stupid clip." A minute later. Ava, "Also make sure the deposit money is ready. We can talk after you transfer it." That was the moment my hurt shifted into something colder. She didn't ask if I was okay. She didn't apologize. Her concern was that I might interfere with the lease. Our shared calendar reminder sat at the top of my screen. Lease signing, 10 a.m. I took screenshots of the messages and called Grant. He answered on the 4th ring. "You good?" he asked. "No." I told him what happened. He didn't interrupt except once to ask whether Ava had apologized. "No," I said. She said I'm proving her point. "What point?" "That I'm insecure, apparently." "And what does she want from you tomorrow?" "My signature and most of the deposit." Grant went quiet. I could hear a turn signal clicking through his car speakers. Finally, he said, "Do not go over there tonight." I wasn't planning to. "Do not post anything." I haven't. "And do not give her a scene she can use as evidence that you're unstable." I know. "No, listen to me. She already edited you into the weak role. Don't perform anger for people who want footage." I leaned back against the couch. "What do I do?" "Document it. Sleep. Read every line of that lease. Then decide whether you want to tie your money and housing to someone who thinks humiliation is a relationship test." The word test caught my attention, but only for a second. At that point, I thought Grant was speaking generally. He added, "Use facts. Use boundaries. Nothing else." After we hung up, I opened the lease email. The deposit schedule wouldn't activate until both parties signed. Ava had sent me a Zelle request earlier that day for my share, but I had not accepted it because I planned to pay through the leasing portal after signing. I checked the cancellation terms. Since there was no fully executed lease and no deposit had been transferred, neither of us was locked in. I still didn't make a decision. I barely slept. By 7 the next morning, I had showered, made coffee, and read the lease twice. I was sitting at my kitchen counter when Ava arrived carrying a folder and acting like we'd had a minor disagreement about what to order for dinner. "Morning," she said brightly. I nodded. She set the folder down. I printed out the utility checklist. "We need to decide whether we want the internet installed before key handoff." I looked at her. She avoided my eyes and kept sorting papers. Ava. What? We need to talk about last night. She sighed. I knew you were going to do this. Do what? Drag it out. You called me a 6 and compared me to your ex on a live stream. It was a stupid game. You knew people were laughing at me. People laugh on live streams. That's the point. No. The point is whatever you decide to make it. She dropped the papers onto the counter. Can we talk after the signing? I don't want us walking in there tense. We're already tense. Because you're making it weird. I remember the exact flatness in her voice. Not angry. Not ashamed. Annoyed. Like my reaction was an inconvenient delay. Her phone was on the counter between us. The screen lit up. Caleb, did the test work? I didn't touch the phone. I didn't lean closer. The preview appeared in front of me, large enough to read from where I stood. Ava saw my eyes move. She grabbed the phone and flipped it over. What test? I asked. Her face changed for half a second. Then she recovered. Are you seriously reading my notifications now? I read the words that lit up in front of me. That is such an invasion. Your phone was on my counter. You were looking for something. I was looking at you. She picked up the folder. I'm not doing this. What did he mean? I don't know. Ask him. No. Then explain why Caleb knows enough about last night to ask whether a test worked. She shoved the phone into her bag. You are spiraling. I almost laughed, because that was the word she always used when she wanted to make a direct question sound irrational. I'm asking one question. And I'm telling you there's nothing. I watched her for a moment. She looked irritated, but underneath that she looked nervous. Not nervous that she had hurt me. Nervous that I had seen something I wasn't supposed to see. She checked the time. We need to leave in 40 minutes, she said. Please accept the Zelle request, so it clears. No. Her eyes snapped to mine. What do you mean, no? I'm not transferring anything before we talk. We can talk after. No. Logan, this is exactly what I mean. You always turn an emotional issue into a practical crisis. You attached the practical decision to the emotional thing when you did it the night before signing. I didn't plan the live stream around the lease. She said it too quickly. I hadn't accused her of that. Before I could respond, her phone buzzed inside her bag. She pulled it out, read something, and walked toward the door. I need some air, she said. You just got here. I cannot have a productive conversation when you're interrogating me. She left, taking the folder but forgetting one page of the utility checklist on the counter. I stood alone in the kitchen, listening to the coffee maker click as it cooled. Then my phone buzzed. It was a private message from Riley. Riley, hey. I think last night got taken way too seriously. I didn't answer right away. A second message arrived. Riley, Ava didn't mean to hurt you. It was just a confidence test. I read that sentence 3 times. Then I replied. Me, what is a confidence test? The typing indicator appeared, disappeared, then appeared again. Riley, just seeing if you could take teasing without getting threatened. Me, did Ava tell you she was testing me? Riley, I thought you knew. Me, I knew I was being laughed at. I didn't know it had a title. There was a long pause. Riley, she said if your relationship was solid, it wouldn't matter. Me, when did she say that? Riley, before the live. But I thought it was just content. I didn't know it was connected to anything serious. Me, connected to what? Riley, I shouldn't be in the middle. Me, you were on camera asking her to choose between me and Caleb. Another pause. Then Riley sent one final message. Riley, she said tomorrow would show whether you were really secure. That was enough. I didn't bait her for more. I didn't ask her to send screenshots. I saved the conversation and closed the app. The timeline became obvious. Ava had chosen the night before our signing. Caleb knew there was a test. Riley knew the signing was supposed to prove something. Ava had asked me to transfer money before discussing what happened. And the test wasn't whether our relationship could survive a joke. It was whether I would still make a major commitment after she publicly reduced me to the dependable man she had settled for. I called Harper. My younger sister answered with, "This sounds early for you. I need you to tell me if I'm overreacting. That usually means someone already convinced you that you are." I told her everything. Unlike Grant, Harper interrupted constantly. She said what? Caleb texted her that. Riley admitted it was planned. When I finished, Harper asked, "Did Ava apologize?" No. Did she ask how you felt? No. What has she asked about? The deposit. Harper let out a slow breath. Then stop pretending this is about whether you can take a joke. I know. No, You know the facts. You're still trying to bargain with the meaning. I looked at the boxes against the wall. We've planned this for months. And she picked the night before signing because she thought you were already trapped. What if I pull out and regret it? You may regret losing the version of the future you thought you had. That does not mean signing makes the real version better. I rubbed my forehead. She's going to say I'm insecure. You are not insecure for refusing to be publicly measured against her ex. She'll say I embarrassed her. She arranged an audience. You are declining paperwork. That sentence settled something in me. Harper continued. Loving someone does not mean letting them run an experiment on your dignity. After we hung up, I stopped asking myself whether Ava's words were bad enough to justify leaving. The issue wasn't a number. The issue wasn't even Caleb by himself. The issue was that Ava believed she could humiliate me, call my reaction weakness, and still expect my money and signature the next morning. I opened a note on my phone and wrote, no signing, no deposit, no shared lease. Relationship over. Truth only if she lies about it. I checked the lease portal again. No signature from me. No transferred funds. The Zelle request was still pending. I saved the live stream clip, Ava's texts, Riley's messages, the lease terms, and a screenshot of the calendar showing the timing. I did not have a screenshot of Caleb's notification, and I wasn't going to pretend I did. I wrote down the exact wording and time while it was still fresh. Then I packed a small box with the few things Ava had left at my place. A charger, 2 sweaters, a makeup bag, and a pair of shoes. I sealed it and wrote her name on the top. At 9:37, Ava texted. Ava, are you coming? Me, yes. Ava, did you transfer it? Me, no. Ava, Logan. Me, we'll talk there. Ava, do not blindside me in front of June. I almost replied that she had blindsided me in front of several hundred viewers. I didn't. Grant's voice was still in my head. Facts. Boundaries. Nothing else. June, the lease representative, was already seated when I arrived. She had a neat stack of documents in front of her, 2 black pens, and a large envelope containing the keys that we were supposed to receive later that week. Ava was there before me. She looked polished and calm, but one of her knees was bouncing under the table. You made it, she said. June smiled. Good morning. I've reviewed the application, and everything is ready as long as both signatures are completed and the deposit schedule is confirmed today. Perfect, Ava said. I sat beside her. June began walking us through the lease. Rent amount, parking rules, guest policy, renewal terms, notice requirements. Ava nodded at the right places and occasionally looked at me as if we were a normal couple handling a normal appointment. When June mentioned the deposit, Ava nudged my ankle under the table. I moved my foot away. June turned the packet toward us. Once both signatures are in, the deposit schedule becomes active. You'll receive a confirmation email, and the key handoff remains set for Friday. Ava leaned slightly toward me and whispered, Can we just get through this and not make it weird? I looked at the signature line. Then I looked at her. Was the live stream a joke, or was it a test? Her smile disappeared. June glanced between us, then lowered her eyes to the paperwork. Ava whispered, You are really doing this here? This is where you expected my signature. So yes, it was content. That wasn't my question. She sat back. I'm not discussing a live stream in a lease office. Then we're not signing a lease in a lease office. Her eyes narrowed. You're being dramatic. Was it a test? Ava picked up one of the pens and turned it between her fingers. It was a confidence thing, she said quietly. Not a test. That is the same thing with softer wording. It was supposed to be harmless. Caleb knew. Her hand stopped moving. You saw one notification and built a conspiracy. Riley called it a confidence test. Ava's face changed. Not much, but enough. She hadn't expected me to know that. Riley talks too much, she said. June looked up then. Ava noticed and added quickly. This is a private relationship issue. June's expression stayed neutral. You're welcome to take time before signing. Without both signatures, the agreement cannot move forward under the current terms. Ava turned to me. We can talk about this at home. You mean after I sign and pay? That's not fair. It's exactly what you texted me. Her phone lit up on the table. Caleb's name appeared. She flipped it over, but not before I saw it. I put the pen down. Then I slid the lease packet back toward June. I'm not signing. For the first time since I saw the live stream, Ava looked genuinely shocked. What? I'm not signing the lease. I'm not transferring the deposit. I'm not entering a shared financial agreement with someone who tested how much disrespect I would tolerate before committing. Her voice dropped. You're going to ruin this over one stupid clip? No. I'm refusing to fund the next chapter of a relationship you already turned into a joke. June folded her hands and waited. Ava looked at her, then back at me. You said you wanted a future with me. I did. So what? None of that matters now. It mattered enough that you used it as leverage. I did not use anything as leverage. You wanted to see whether I'd still invest after you made me look disposable. Here's your answer. Her face flushed. You are proving my point. What point? That you're threatened by Caleb. This isn't about competing with Caleb. You keep bringing him up. You brought him into the live stream. You discussed the signing with him. He texted you about the test. I never discussed our finances with him. I didn't say finances. Ava opened her mouth, then closed it. June gently pulled the key envelope closer to herself. Ava saw the movement. That was when the practical reality hit her. Wait, she said to June. Can I sign now and have him added later? June replied. The approval and terms were based on the joint application. A change would require review, and the current agreement would not activate without both signatures. What if I cover the deposit? The application would still need to be revised. Ava looked at me. You know I can't cover all of it today. I know. That's cruel. No. Cruel would be letting you think I signed, and then canceling the payment. I'm telling you before anything activates. You waited until we were sitting here. I asked you at my kitchen counter. You accused me of invading your privacy. Her voice sharpened. You are humiliating me in front of a stranger. I looked at June, who was professionally focused on the top page of the lease. I haven't raised my voice, I said. I haven't called you names. I declined to sign. Ava pushed her chair back. This is unbelievable. She gathered her purse and phone, then turned to June. Can you give us 5 minutes? June nodded. Of course. I'll remain here. Ava walked out. I stayed seated. June waited until the door closed. For clarity, she said, do you wish to withdraw from the agreement? Yes. I'll note that it was not executed due to incomplete signatures. No deposit has been charged through our portal. Thank you. She typed something into her computer. A minute later, my phone vibrated with an email. Because all required signatures were not completed, the agreement did not activate. The scheduled key handoff was canceled. Clean. Neutral. Final. I stood, thanked June, and walked outside. Ava was pacing near the curb with her phone pressed to her ear. I stopped far enough away to give her space, but close enough to hear her side of the conversation. No, I'm not asking you to sign today, she said. I'm asking if you can help me figure this out. A pause. You were involved enough to text me about the test. Another pause. Her face tightened. That's not what I said. She turned and saw me. I didn't move. She lowered her voice. So you're just going to disappear now? A longer pause. Then she pulled the phone away and ended the call. Caleb, I asked. None of your business. Fair. She stared at me. He says he didn't know I was using the live stream to test anything. But he asked whether the test worked. He thought it was a joke. That seems to be everyone's defense. She crossed her arms tightly. He's not going to help with the apartment. I said nothing. You're enjoying this. No. You are. You wanted to punish me. I wanted not to sign a lease I no longer trusted. You could have talked to me privately. I tried. You had already decided. After Riley confirmed it, yes. Ava looked away. Cars moved through the lot behind her. Somewhere nearby, a landscaper was running a leaf blower. It was such an ordinary morning that the end of our relationship felt almost quiet. She said, you don't understand what I was trying to do. Then explain it. For the first time, her tone lost some of its anger. I needed to know you were secure. Why? Because living together is serious. So you embarrassed me to see whether I'd still sign. I teased you. You compared me to your ex and let strangers call me a man you settled for. I didn't control the comments. You read them aloud. She looked down. I continued, what did signing prove? That you knew what we had was stronger than a live stream. No. It would have proved that you could disrespect me without changing what I gave you. That's not what I meant. It's what you designed. She shook her head. I thought you'd laugh it off. I thought you'd show up and act confident. Meaning compliant. Meaning not threatened. You keep using insecurity as a way to avoid the word respect. Ava wiped under one eye, though I hadn't seen a tear fall. We've been together almost 3 years. I know. You're ending it here? Yes. Her head snapped up. Over this. Because of this and everything that led to it. What does that mean? It means every time you called me boring and said it was a compliment. Every time you compared me to Caleb and said I imagined it. Every time you made me feel unreasonable for asking you not to turn me into a punchline. She stepped closer. I love you. I believe you love what I make safe for you. That is a horrible thing to say. It's less horrible than the things you said about me to an audience. She stared at me for several seconds. Then she said, so that's it? That's it. I had brought the box of her belongings in my car, but I decided the curb outside the leasing office was not the place to hand it over. I told her I would leave it with Riley later or arrange a time when we didn't need to speak. Ava laughed bitterly. Of course. Efficient to the end. I almost defended myself. Then I stopped. That was the trap I had been living in. Any responsible action became evidence that I lacked passion. Any boundary became evidence that I was insecure. Any hurt became proof that I couldn't take a joke. I said, take care of yourself. Then I walked to my car. Before I started the engine, a notification appeared from the rideshare family profile Ava and I had been using for apartment errands. We had linked it weeks earlier so either of us could book trips to walkthroughs and moving-related appointments without sorting out reimbursements. Ava had requested a ride. The receipt listed the destination. Caleb's apartment complex. I looked at it for a few seconds, then removed her from the family profile. The fact that she went there didn't hurt the way I expected it to. Maybe because by then it didn't change the decision. It only showed that the exciting option she kept beside our relationship was still where she went when the stable option stopped holding everything together. I drove home. The boxes were exactly where I had left them. I stood in the living room for a while, surrounded by labeled cardboard. Kitchen. Books. Bathroom. I had written both our names on several of them. I crossed her name out. That afternoon, Ava began trying to control the narrative. Riley messaged me first. Riley, Ava said you snapped at the lease office and pulled out with no warning. Me. I did not snap. I declined to sign. Riley. She said you used Caleb as an excuse because you were already getting cold feet. I opened my folder of screenshots. Grant had advised me not to make a public case, and I agreed. I didn't want a social media trial. I didn't want strangers choosing teams. I didn't want to spend another night watching comments turn my relationship into entertainment. But I also wasn't going to let Ava use my silence as a blank page. I sent Riley 4 things. The livestream clip. Ava's text saying we could talk after I transferred the deposit. Riley's own message calling it a confidence test. A screenshot of the lease email showing that the agreement had never activated. Then I wrote, me. I asked whether it was a joke or a test. She would not answer until I mentioned your message. I did not yell. I did not insult her. I did not sign. Riley was quiet for nearly an hour. Then, Riley, I didn't know she told Caleb. Me. His notification said, did the test work? Riley, she told us you knew about the game. Me, I didn't. Riley, she said the signing would prove you knew you couldn't be shaken. I didn't respond. A few minutes later, Riley, I should not have laughed. I'm sorry. That apology didn't erase anything, but I appreciated that she gave it without adding a reason I should forgive Ava. One of the other women from the livestream sent me a message later that evening. Ava had apparently told them I had been looking for a way out of the lease and used a harmless joke to leave her stranded. I sent the same limited timeline, minus Riley's private messages. I wasn't going to expose someone else's words unless necessary. The woman replied, that's not what we were told. I wrote, I'm not asking you to pick a side. I'm correcting a claim about my behavior. That was all. The livestream clip started receiving backlash without any help from me. A few viewers had saved it. People who had originally laughed began commenting that Ava sounded less playful and more contemptuous. Others asked why someone planning to move in with her boyfriend was still using her ex as the standard. Ava deleted the clip. By then, copies existed. She posted a vague message about people being unable to understand humor and private relationships being judged out of context. I didn't reply. Caleb also contacted me, which surprised me. Caleb, I'm not part of whatever happened with the lease. I waited before answering. Me, then don't be. Caleb, Ava is saying you think I planned it. Me, I think you knew about the test. Your message appeared on her phone. Caleb, I knew she was doing some livestream thing. I didn't know she was using the lease like that. Me, okay. Caleb, I'm serious. I'm not trying to get back with her. I looked at the ride receipt in my email. Me, that's between you and Ava. Caleb, she came over upset. I told her I'm not signing anything, and I'm not paying her deposit. Me, I didn't ask you to. Caleb, I just don't want my name dragged into money problems. That was Caleb in a nutshell. He liked being the exciting comparison as long as excitement cost him nothing. The moment Ava's choices created a practical problem, he wanted a clean exit. I didn't hate him. I didn't respect him either. I replied, then stay out of it, and blocked his number. Ava called me 6 times that evening. I didn't answer. At 11:14, she left me a voicemail. Logan, this has gone way too far. You embarrassed me in front of June. You left me with boxes packed, and now Riley is acting like I manipulated everyone. It was content. People joke. Couples test each other all the time. Whether they admit it or not. You made me look like I needed you. You knew I couldn't cover that apartment alone. I need you to call me so we can fix this before you destroy 3 years over one bad night. I listened once. The line that stayed with me was not that she missed me. It was, you made me look like I needed you. I saved the voicemail. Then I sent one written response. Me, you needed my signature and my deposit. You did not protect my dignity. The lease is inactive, and our relationship is over. I will arrange the return of your belongings. Do not contact me except about property we need to exchange. She replied immediately. Ava, you are being cold. I did not answer. The next morning, June sent a formal confirmation that the joint application had been closed under the original terms. No deposit was due. No key handoff would occur. Any future application by either party would require a new review. That email mattered more than I expected. There was no dramatic legal fight. No last-minute charge. No threat from the leasing office. Just a simple record that I had not entered the agreement. Ava could not claim I had abandoned an active lease. I had refused to create one. The practical fallout hit quickly. The internet installation was canceled because it had been scheduled under my name. I removed myself from the shared utility reminders. I canceled the moving van reservation I had made and received most of the fee back because I was still inside the cancellation window. Ava sent 2 messages about the van before remembering I had told her to contact me only about belongings. Ava, the movers were part of our plan. Ava, at least leave the reservation active and I'll pay you later. I replied, me, the reservation was under my name and tied to a move I'm no longer making. It has been canceled. She sent a thumbs up that felt more hostile than a paragraph. Riley picked up Ava's box from me 2 days later. She looked uncomfortable standing at my door. I'm sorry, she said again. I handed her the box. Thank you for getting it to her. She's really angry. I know. She says you made her look calculated. I didn't make her plan the test. Riley looked down at the label on the box. I thought it was just girls being stupid on a live, she said. Then she told us afterward that you'd still sign because you knew you couldn't do better. I felt something tighten in my chest. That was worse than the number. Those were her words. Riley nodded. She said the whole point was to see whether you were actually secure or just pretending. She said if you signed, it meant you understood the relationship was still a good deal for you. I was quiet. Riley added, I didn't know she was serious until you pulled out. That was the final piece. Ava had not only been testing whether I could tolerate public embarrassment. She had been measuring how little I believed I deserved. If I signed, she could tell herself I knew I was lucky to have her. If I objected, she could call me insecure. Either way, she stayed above me. Thanks for telling me, I said. Riley hugged the box closer. She's going to hate that I did. You don't have to discuss me with her. I know. She turned to leave, then stopped. For what it's worth, you didn't look insecure at the office. You weren't there. No. But someone insecure would have tried to beat Caleb. You just left the competition. After she drove away, I went inside and sat on the floor beside the remaining boxes. For a while, I was angry with myself. Not because I had ended things, but because I had accepted so many smaller versions of the same disrespect. I had treated patience like a duty. Every time Ava made a cutting remark, I searched for the most charitable interpretation. Every time she accused me of insecurity, I tried harder to prove I wasn't. Every time Caleb appeared, I told myself that trust meant acting unbothered. Trust is not pretending not to see a pattern. A week after the failed signing, Ava sent a long email. It was the closest she came to admitting what she had done. She wrote that she had been scared of moving in together. She said she worried that our relationship had become too practical and wanted proof that I still felt strongly enough about her not to be shaken by a meaningless comparison. She claimed Caleb was part of the conversation because he understood her chaotic side and had told her I seemed too controlled. She also said the test had backfired because she underestimated how seriously I took public embarrassment. Even in an apology, she framed my dignity as a sensitivity she had miscalculated. There was one sentence that might have moved me a month earlier. I thought you were the one person who would stay even when I made things difficult. I read it twice. Then I wrote back. I would have stayed through difficulty. I will not stay through deliberate disrespect designed to measure whether I can be controlled. I told her I wished her well and asked her not to contact me again. She didn't respond. Later, Harper came over and helped me sort the boxes. She held up a package of matching bathroom towels Ava had chosen. Keep or donate? Donate. Aggressive decision. They're ugly. They were ugly when you bought them. I was in love. Harper smiled. Apparently love is beige. It was the first time I laughed about any part of the move. We spent the afternoon opening boxes and deciding what I actually needed. Some things went back into cabinets. Some went to a donation center. The rest went into a storage unit I rented for a month while I figured out my next step. I removed Ava from the shared calendar. The screen asked whether I wanted to notify her. I chose no. Lease signing disappeared. Deposit due disappeared. Key handoff disappeared. Underneath them was an old reminder for a dinner reservation we had made weeks earlier. I deleted that too. Grant checked in regularly, but never asked whether I missed her. He asked better questions. Sleeping? Mostly. Eating? Yes. Looked at her social media? Once. Stop. Working on it. Ava's public version of the story never fully recovered. She had told too many people slightly different things. To some, the live stream was spontaneous. To others, it was a harmless test. To Riley, I supposedly knew about it. To Caleb, the lease was apparently not part of the plan. To me, it was just content until she admitted it was a confidence thing. Once those versions touched, they didn't fit. I never posted the screenshots. I never made a video. I never contacted her family. The people she had involved reached their own conclusions from the evidence they already had. Caleb stopped appearing in her posts after a few weeks. Riley became less available to her. The apartment went to someone else. The moving boxes Ava had packed stayed at her place because there was nowhere for them to go. None of that made me happy. What satisfied me was simpler. My name was not on that lease. My money was still in my account. My reputation was not defined by the version Ava tried to circulate. And I no longer had to prove I was secure by accepting things that hurt me. 2 months later, I drove past the storage unit after moving the last of my boxes out. The unit was empty except for scraps of tape on the concrete floor. I stood there for a minute with the metal door rolled up above me. I thought about the apartment we had chosen. The closet. The dining table. The key envelope June pulled back across the desk. For a while, I had seen that unsigned lease as the moment my future collapsed. It wasn't. The future Ava offered required me to keep auditioning for basic respect while she kept the power to score me. She wanted me to prove I was secure. So I stopped competing for a woman who had already made me feel optional. I didn't lose a future that day. I stopped paying for one where I was the punchline. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.